America is on the edge of collapse, and one man is trapped in the heart of a city that is falling apart. Every street hides secrets, every shadow whispers danger, and one mysterious door holds a truth that could change everything. Will he uncover it, or will the waiting break him first? This is a story of survival, suspense, and a nation teetering on the brink, a journey you cannot look away from until the very last moment. The city skyline burned in the muted light of a winter afternoon, jagged edges of steel and glass slicing into the smoky sky. Alex Mercer walked through the deserted streets, his boots echoing on the cracked concrete. The usual hum of traffic was gone, replaced by a heavy, oppressive silence that pressed against his chest. He paused at the corner of Fifth Avenue and Madison, staring at a row of shuttered storefronts. Windows were boarded, graffiti bleeding across walls like warnings written in a fevered hand. The air smelled of burning tires and something sharper, metallic, lingering in the back of his throat. Every instinct in his body screamed danger, yet he could not move. The city had changed in ways he had refused to believe until now. The collapse was no longer a distant headline. It was here. Voices echoed faintly from an alley to his right. Low, urgent whispers that carried the tension of secrets too dangerous to speak aloud. Alex tightened his coat around him, eyes narrowing. He did not recognize the speakers, but he knew enough to keep moving. As he rounded the corner, he saw them, a group huddled around a makeshift fire, shadows dancing across their faces, gaunt and desperate. One of them looked up, locking eyes with Alex for a heartbeat that stretched too long. There was no recognition, no trust, only raw, naked fear mirrored in those dark eyes. Alex felt it too. Fear gnawed at his chest, but beneath it was something heavier, anger, disbelief, a grief he could not yet name. America, the country he had known, the country he believed in, was unraveling. Piece by piece, day by day, it was slipping into chaos. He moved on, careful, measured, every sense alert. Every sound was amplified. The distant crash of glass, the metallic clang of a door swinging open somewhere far behind him, the hiss of a radiator releasing steam in an abandoned building. A sudden roar of engines tore across the street ahead, and Alex ducked into a narrow passage. His heart hammered. The vehicles passed, armored in black, silhouettes of authority that no longer represented protection but control. The collapse was no longer theoretical. It had a face, and it was terrifying. Alex pressed his back to the wall, sweat dampening his collar. He felt the weight of the city on him, as if the very structures around him were bending toward ruin. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, but they sounded hollow, ghostly, as if the city itself mourned. He remembered the morning he had opened the newspaper, weeks ago. The ink smudged with uncertainty. Political upheaval, economic breakdown, social unrest. Words that had once felt abstract now burned with reality. He clenched his fists. He had come here seeking answers, seeking a plan, but all he found were questions and shadows. Suddenly, a sound, a single, deliberate knock on the metal door beside him. Alex froze. Every nerve in his body screamed to flee, yet something compelled him to stay. He turned slowly, eyes scanning the shadows. The knock came again, harder, insistent. A whisper followed it. A name. His name. Alex's breath caught. The city around him seemed to hold its breath with him. The moment stretched, fragile and dangerous. He stepped forward, hand trembling slightly as it brushed against the cold metal. The whisper came again, this time a warning and an invitation all at once. And then he realized that the path he had been walking, the streets he had known, were no longer familiar. Every step forward was a choice between survival and surrender, between uncovering the truth and losing everything he had ever trusted. The door creaked open. Inside, shadows waited. And in that darkness, Alex understood that collapse point was not a moment. It was a beginning. The shadows shifted as Alex stepped inside, the darkness swallowing him like cold water. The air smelled of dust and rust, a weight that made each breath a deliberate effort. He could hear faint movements, a shuffle, a scrape, whispers carried on a draft that seemed alive. A single bare bulb flickered above, casting a trembling circle of light on a cracked concrete floor. In that wavering illumination, Alex could see walls etched with frantic messages. Warnings, names, numbers, symbols that made no sense yet screamed urgency. He moved cautiously, boots silent against the floor, each step measured. The whispers grew louder, merging into a low hum, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Alex's pulse quickened, his senses stretching to their limits. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, lean, cloaked in a coat that seemed stitched from darkness itself. Alex could not see the face clearly, only glimpses of movement, of intent. The figure held something in their hands, an object wrapped in black cloth. Alex's throat tightened. Every instinct screamed at him to run, yet something rooted him in place. The figure stepped closer, careful, deliberate, and placed the object on a table. It was small, unassuming, a box, ordinary in shape, but Alex felt a surge of dread before he even touched it. The whispers ceased, leaving a heavy silence, like the pause before a storm strikes. "Open it," the figure said, voice calm, too calm. Alex reached out, fingers trembling. The air was thick, electric. His pulse rattled in his ears. Every nerve screamed that this was the moment, the turning point, the revelation that could change everything, unravel everything he thought he knew about the collapse, about America, about himself. He touched the box. A sudden noise behind him made him spin, heart hammering. A door slammed somewhere deep in the building. Footsteps echoed, heavy, purposeful, but they did not come closer. They did not come further. Alex turned back to the box. His hands hovered over it. And then he paused. The whispers returned, faint at first, curling around his ears like smoke. "Do you want the truth?" they asked. "Can you bear it?" Alex's hand wavered. The box seemed to pulse beneath his fingertips, a heartbeat in the darkness, waiting. He inhaled, trying to steady himself, the weight of the city pressing down on him even here, in this hidden room. He raised the lid, and then a metallic click sounded, a sound small, almost insignificant, but it froze him in place. The box did not open. The object inside remained concealed, mocking him, teasing him. Alex pressed harder. Nothing. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of questions that offered no answers, only doubt. His frustration rose, clawing at him, but beneath it was a strange, cold exhilaration. The box was a test, a promise, a trap. He leaned closer, breathing shallow, listening to the silence, waiting for the next sound, the next revelation. But none came. Outside, the city continued its slow, grinding decay. Sirens, distant shouts, the thrum of unseen engines, life and chaos intertwined in a rhythm that Alex felt deep in his chest. Inside the room, time stretched. The box remained closed. The shadows held their secrets. The whispers lingered, circling him, teasing him with answers he might never know. Alex stepped back, eyes never leaving the box. He felt the pull of something larger, something beyond the crumbling streets, beyond the collapsing nation. It was a truth too vast to hold, too dangerous to confront too soon. He clenched his fists, jaw tight. The city outside was breaking. The streets were silent witnesses to a story still unfolding. And here in the dark, he realized that Collapse Point was not a single event. It was a labyrinth, a tension that would stretch further, deeper, until every secret, every fear, every choice collided. The whispers circled again, softer this time, almost affectionate. "Patience," they said. "All will be revealed in time." Alex stepped back into the shadows, leaving the box untouched, the figure silent, the city beyond whispering its warnings. The moment lingered, unresolved, like a wound that would not heal. And then he moved forward, knowing that the path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and impossible to predict. The collapse point was still coming. And yet, somehow, he felt that the real revelation, the true breaking, had not yet begun. Alex moved through the darkened corridors, the floor uneven beneath his boots. Every step seemed to echo longer than it should, bouncing off walls lined with peeling paint and damp stains. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of mildew and something sharper, metallic, like old blood. He reached a narrow staircase, spiraling upward. Rusted metal groaned under his weight, protesting each movement. The faint flicker of a light above cast long, trembling shadows, stretching into corners that might be hiding anything. or no one at all. Above him, a distant sound rattled the ceiling, like a loose shutter in a storm. Alex froze, heart hammering, listening. The noise stopped. Silence returned, but it carried a weight, pressing against him like a hand on his chest. At the top of the staircase, a hallway opened before him. Doors lined each side, most hanging crooked on their hinges, some sealed with layers of tape or graffiti scrawled in haste. The whispers returned here, soft, winding through the air, curling around him like smoke. He is here. He cannot turn back. He cannot yet know. Alex's hand brushed against the doorframe. He felt the cold seep into his fingers. One door, farther down the hall, seemed different, solid, unyielding, and yet it emitted a faint vibration, almost like a pulse beneath the wood. He moved toward it. The closer he got, the stronger the vibration became. His pulse matched it, rapid and erratic, as if the building itself were alive, aware of him, guiding him towards something he could not yet comprehend. He placed his hand on the door. The metal handle was icy, and it seemed to hum under his touch. He tried to pull, but it would not budge. The whisper circled again, now urgent. Not yet. Not now. Wait. Alex stepped back, breath shallow. The urge to force it open clawed at him, but some instinct, deeper than fear, held him back. Patience. The voice seemed to insist, though no one spoke aloud. The hallway around him felt suspended in time, every shadow frozen, every sound amplified. He looked down the corridor. Every door stared back, like eyes, some opened just enough to hint at darkness beyond. He felt the pull of countless unknowns, each doorway a possibility, a danger, a secret waiting. Yet the pulse behind the solid door drew him more than all the others combined. A noise from behind made him spin, a metallic scraping, slow and deliberate. Nothing emerged, but he could feel it, the presence of someone or something just beyond his perception. Every hair on his arm stood on end. Alex turned back to the door. The vibration beneath his palm had stopped. Silence reigned, heavier than before. His heartbeat slowed, almost reluctant to resume its rhythm. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, walls bending into shadows that whispered promises and threats alike. He considered leaving, moving on, searching elsewhere for answers, but something held him here, a tension too compelling to resist. His fingers hovered over the handle once more, curiosity battling caution. Then the whispers returned, softer, almost coaxing. The truth is waiting. You cannot know yet. You must see, you must feel, and yet not yet. Alex exhaled slowly, stepping back into the hall. The door remained closed. The pulse gone. The presence that filled the air had vanished, leaving only the silence of anticipation. He walked further down the corridor, each step deliberate, his eyes scanning every shadow, every crack, every hint of motion. Somewhere deep inside, he knew that what he sought, the revelation, the key to understanding the collapse, was close. Too close. And yet, the moment never arrived. The door never opened. The answers never came. Alex stopped mid-step, feeling the weight of time stretch around him. Outside, the city continues decay, sirens wailing in the distance, fires burning in abandoned streets. But inside this building, everything hung suspended, like a breath held too long. He sank to the floor against the wall, knees drawn up, and waited, not out of fear, not entirely, out of the strange, magnetic pull of a truth he could not yet touch. The hallway stretched into shadows beyond the reach of the dim light, and the whispers circled him one last time before fading into silence. And Alex understood in that suspended moment, that collapse point was not a single breaking. It was the endless waiting, the tension, the anticipation that stretched every second into eternity. The hallway remained quiet. The door remained closed. And somewhere, deep within the darkness, the city and perhaps the world continued its slow, grinding collapse. And still, nothing happened. Alex stayed against the wall, the cold concrete pressing into his back, his breathing shallow and careful. The hallway seemed to pulse with a life of its own, shadows stretching and folding as though the building were aware of him. Every sound, every whisper, every distant creak was magnified, echoing in the silence. After a long moment, he pushed himself to his feet. Each step down the corridor felt heavier than the last, as if the shadows themselves were pressing against him, trying to slow his progress. The air was thick, tasting of dust and metal, carrying a low vibration that he could feel in his chest. He passed doors that were cracked, warped, hanging at impossible angles. Behind some, faint light flickered, like a heartbeat barely alive. Behind others, complete darkness swallowed the room whole. None of them called to him the way the solid door had, yet the tension lingered, pulling him forward with invisible hands. At the far end of the hall, a stairwell led downward. Alex hesitated, peering into the black void below. The faint hum of air vents mixed with something else, a low, rhythmic sound, distant yet undeniable, like a drum echoing in the depths. He could not tell whether it was a machine, a person, or something else entirely. He descended slowly, one careful step at a time. The staircase twisted, narrow and claustrophobic, the walls closing in as he moved further down. Dust fell from above, sprinkling his hair and shoulders, whispering reminders of decay and abandonment. At the bottom, a large, steel door loomed. It was massive, reinforced, with no handle, no visible lock. Only a thin crack at the edge where light from above barely seeped in. The rhythmic sound grew louder here, resonating to the floor, through his bones, vibrating in a way that made him shiver. Alex crouched, studying the door, every instinct screaming that it hid something crucial. He leaned closer to the crack, listening. There was a faint movement inside, deliberate, cautious, as though whatever awaited him knew he had arrived. The whispers returned, curling around his ears, a soft warning that made the hair on his arms stand on end. Not yet. You are close, but not ready. Wait. Alex swallowed, hand hovering near the edge of the door. A strange, magnetic pull urged him to touch it, to force it open, but some deeper part of him obeyed the caution. He stepped back, breath trembling, heart hammering. Time seemed to stretch, the rhythmic sound pulsing in the silence like a heartbeat, steady and unyielding. Alex sank to the floor, pressing his back against the wall. He could feel it through the soles of his boots, through the air around him, a tension so taut that it seemed it could snap at any second, yet it did not. Minutes passed, hours perhaps, though he could not tell. The hallway above remained silent, the staircase behind him still, the city outside unaware of the suspense he had become part of. The rhythmic sound continued, constant and patient, waiting. Alex closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the moment settle into his chest. The answers, the revelation, the moment that could define the collapse. It all remained just beyond reach, concealed behind steel and shadow. He opened his eyes to the faint glow from the crack in the door. The sound pulsed again, softer this time, almost a beckoning. He rose slowly, body taut, sense of straining, and placed a hand on the steel surface. The vibration ran through his palm, his arm, his entire body. The door remained closed. Nothing happened. Alex stepped back again, heart racing, mind alight with questions that had no answers. The rhythmic sound continued. The building seemed to breathe around him, and the shadows held their secrets, patient and unyielding. He sank once more to the floor, knees drawn up, staring at the door. The moment stretched, suspended, every second filled with anticipation that went nowhere. Outside, the city groaned, sirens and distant fires marking the collapse. Inside, the steel door waited, the rhythm continued, and Alex understood with sharp clarity that the breaking point was not sudden. It was a slow, unrelenting tension, a waiting that could last forever, a test of endurance and courage. And still nothing happened. The door remained closed. The rhythm persisted. The shadows watched. Alex breathed slowly, aware that he had stepped into something far larger than himself, far more intricate than he could imagine. The answers, the truth, the revelation, all lay just beyond the steel barrier. And he would wait, because collapse point was not about the moment it arrived. It was about the waiting, the suspense, the tension that stretched every heartbeat into eternity. And the moment never came. Alex remained on the cold floor, eyes fixed on the steel door. The faint hum beneath it persisted, a rhythm that seemed to echo in his bones, vibrating with a presence he could not see. Every shadow in the dim stairwell stretched toward him, pulling at the edges of his vision. whispering secrets he could not yet grasp. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the building itself had inhaled and now held its breath. Dust motes floated in the faint light, drifting like slow-motion fireflies, each one a reminder of the decay surrounding him. Alex shivered and drew his coat tighter, but the chill was not just physical. It settled deep in his chest, in the pit of his stomach, twisting into unease he could not name. He shifted slightly, knees pressed to his chest, listening. There was a subtle change in the rhythm beneath the door, slower now, deliberate, like the steady pulse of a giant heart buried somewhere deep beneath the building. He felt its thrum through his palms, through his boots, through the floor itself, above him. The faint groan of the staircase reminded him of the world outside, the city continuing its slow collapse, oblivious to the secrets hidden in this building. The streetlights flickered through broken windows far above, casting long fingers of light that never reached him. Time seemed to stretch, elastic, as if the world beyond this hallway no longer followed the rules he knew. A shadow moved across the faint glow of the crack. Alex's pulse jumped. He leaned forward, squinting, but saw nothing, only the shifting darkness that refused to give shape to his fears. The whispers returned, softer, curling around him like smoke, teasing him with words he could almost understand. Soon, not yet, wait. Alex's hand hovered over the cold steel. The urge to touch it again burned in him, magnetic and maddening. He pressed his palm against the surface, feeling the subtle vibrations run up his arm. A surge of anticipation, sharp and consuming, flowed through him. He exhaled slowly, holding himself steady, waiting for the moment of revelation. It did not come. He stepped back, knees scraping against the floor, and sank against the wall once more. The rhythmic pulse continued, steady, insistent, like a heartbeat that refused to reveal its source. He closed his eyes, letting the tension sink in, letting the suspense fill every nerve. The waiting itself had become the test. Minutes passed. Hours might have passed. He could not tell. The silence around him was alive, heavy with expectation. Every creak in the building, every distant sound in the city above, carried the weight of the unknown. Alex could feel it pressing in on him, surrounding him from all sides, yet nothing moved. Nothing changed. A faint scratching noise came from somewhere beyond the door, soft, deliberate, almost imperceptible. Alex froze. His body tensed, muscles coiled, senses stretched to their limits. He held his breath. The sound stopped. The pulse continued. The whispers returned, curling closer this time, brushing against his ears with words that offered both promise and frustration. Alex leaned his forehead against the steel. The cold seeped through his skin, grounding him in the present, yet the tension around him made each second feel infinite. The waiting had become a living thing, wrapping around him, pulling him deeper into its orbit, and still nothing happened. The shadows stretched further into the stairwell. The pulse beneath the door remained constant. The whispers circled, coaxing him, teasing him. The moment of truth that had drawn him here, the collapse, the revelation, the breaking point, had not yet arrived. Alex closed his eyes again, letting the silence consume him, feeling the weight of anticipation press against every fiber of his being. He understood, with a clarity that made his chest ache, that collapse point was not about the instant the world broke. It was about the waiting, the tension, the slow burn of uncertainty that stretched endlessly before him. He exhaled, slow and steady, and leaned back against the wall. And still, the door remained closed. The pulse persisted. The shadows waited. The moment never came. Alex remained pressed against the wall, the cold seeping into his bones, the pulse beneath the steel door vibrating faintly through the floor. Each beat felt like it was synchronized with his own heart, steady and unyielding, a rhythm he could neither control nor ignore. He stared at the crack in the door, straining for any sign, any movement, any hint of what lay beyond, but remained silent, unyielding, patient. The whispers returned, curling around him like smoke. They were softer this time, almost contemplative, teasing him with fragments of phrases he could almost understand. It waits. You are here soon. The words offered a promise that drew him in, yet denied him the release he sought. Alex rose slowly, body tense, every nerve alive. He paced a narrow stairwell, boots scraping lightly against the worn metal steps. Listening to the hollow echo that followed him, the stairwell seemed to stretch endlessly, each step forward a test of patience and resolve. The city outside was alive with chaos, but here, time felt suspended, each second drawn long, almost infinite. He paused mid-step, staring at the steel door once more. A thin line of shadow had shifted along its surface, almost imperceptible, as if the door itself were breathing. The pulse beneath it continued, rhythmic, hypnotic, a heartbeat buried deep in the dark. Alex raised a hand, then lowered it again, caught between curiosity and caution, knowing that whatever lay beyond could change everything, yet sensing that the timing was not yet right. He moved further along the stairwell, each movement careful, deliberate, listening. Faint sounds reached him. The scraping of metal far below, the distant hum of a generator somewhere deeper in the building, the faint echo of voices too far away to identify. They were reminders that he was not alone, yet the building offered no answers, no direction, only tension and anticipation. Alex leaned against the wall at the end of the stairwell, knees drawn up, his mind raced with questions, possibilities, fears. The collapse outside had made him aware of fragility, of instability, of how quickly the world could shift. Here, in this silent, waiting space, he confronted a different kind of fragility. The fragility of expectation, of anticipation stretched so thin that it became almost unbearable. A faint scraping came again from beyond the door. Alex's pulse quickened, muscles coiling as he waited for what might emerge. The sound stopped. The whispers returned, drifting closer now, threading through his consciousness, teasing him with promises that never arrived. Soon you will see, not yet. He pressed a hand to the cold steel, feeling the vibration pulse beneath his fingers. Every instinct told him to push, to pry, to uncover the truth, but deeper awareness held him back. The moment was not yet his. The collapse, the revelation, the truth of what awaited, it all lingered just out of reach, tantalizing, maddening. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Alex shifted slightly, leaning his forehead against the door, feeling its chill seep into his skin. The stairwell was silent now, the shadows unmoving, the pulse beneath the steel steady and insistent. Outside, the city groaned. Fires crackled in the distance, sirens screamed, but inside there was only waiting. He drew a deep breath, exhaling slowly, trying to steady himself against the tension that threatened to consume him. The whispers curled around him again, faint and patient. Patience, all will be revealed in time. Alex closed his eyes, sinking to the floor once more. The pulse continued, a reminder that something immense waited behind the steel. Yet it refused to emerge. The anticipation itself became a presence, tangible, almost alive, pressing on him from all sides. And still nothing happened. The door remained closed. The pulse persisted. The whispers circled. The moment never came. Alex understood with a slow, sinking certainty. That collapse point was not an event. It was a space between expectation and revelation. The tension stretched across time, a silent test of endurance. He had entered a labyrinth of anticipation, where every second mattered, yet every second brought him no closer to the truth. And so he waited, fully aware that the waiting itself had become the point. And still, the moment never arrived. Alex sat against the cold steel door, knees drawn up, eyes fixed on the unbroken line of shadow. The pulse beneath the surface had slowed, fading, but its echo lingered in his chest, in his bones, as if the building itself exhaled one final breath. The whispers had gone silent, leaving only the heavy stillness of anticipation. He realized that the waiting had changed him. The tension, the unknown, the unyielding presence of whatever lay beyond the door. It stretched him, reshaped him, made him both fragile and acutely aware. He rose slowly, the chill of the stairwell gnawing at his fingers, but a strange warmth had settled in his chest, a sense that understanding was not found in the answers themselves, but in the endurance of seeking them. The collapse outside, the chaos in the streets, the crumbling nation, it all mirrored the emptiness he felt within, yet now he recognized the power of standing in that emptiness without being swallowed. Alex stepped away from the door, each movement deliberate, measured. The pulse beneath it had vanished entirely, leaving silence that felt almost sacred. He turned, finally, and began to ascend the stairwell, emerging into the dim light above. The hallway stretched ahead, broken and uncertain, yet alive with a faint glow of possibility. Outside the building, the city remained fractured, trembling on the edge of chaos. Fires burned in the distance, sirens echoed faintly, and shadows lingered in abandoned streets. Yet the air was sharp and crisp, carrying the scent of frost and smoke, a reminder that life persisted even in the midst of decay. Alex paused at a broken window, gazing at the skyline. The jagged silhouettes of towers reflected the fading light, and in that moment he understood something profound. Collapse Point was not a single breaking, not a sudden catastrophe. It was a point at which awareness dawned, when the world and the self met in fragile clarity. He felt no triumph, no relief, only presence, only the quiet recognition that he had faced attention, endured the unknown, and survived a waiting that had seemed infinite. The city groaned around him. The streets whispered. Somewhere, deep in the distance, a faint vibration hinted at mysteries yet unresolved, challenges yet to come. The collapse continued, relentless and patient, shaping the world without pause. Alex turned from the skyline, stepping into the shadowed corridor, knowing that his journey was far from over. Yet for the first time, he understood the rhythm of the collapse, the pulse of tension, the patience of anticipation, the quiet weight of endurance. The door behind him remained closed. The building waited. The city moved toward its uncertain future. And Alex walked forward, steady, aware, ready for whatever might emerge next. Collapse Point had passed, not as a moment of destruction, but as a point of awakening. The world had not ended. It had only begun to reveal itself.